In this tutorial video, I'll teach you how to create a side-scrolling animation with a parallax background effect to show depth. Now, just a forewarning, this is a really basic way of doing this technique, and it's great for you to do it this way first so you learn what parallax scrolling is and how to create it and control the length and the time of motion tweens. But there are more sophisticated ways of doing a side-scrolling game and a parallax background, and this might not even work for something complicated like a game, but those involve action script and they involve creating movie clips with two different copies of the graphics that are going to automatically loop together. So for this video, we're just doing the basic technique. If you need something more sophisticated, you're going to have to find some of that resources on YouTube or Adobe's learning channel. Okay, so parallax effect is basically saying that different things move at different speeds, and that shows us depth. So when we're looking at a side-scrolling game and we're looking at the background versus the foreground, the running ground that the character might be jumping and smashing and running on, that's going at a pretty good speed to match the character speed. And then every other piece or artwork behind it is a little bit slower. The further away it gets from us, the slower it gets. So when we're looking at the moon, it is barely moving, and this gives us a really great depth. So let's see how to do this. The first thing is you should download some tile sets or create your own assets. We use the tile sets from GameArt2D.com. He has a bunch of freebies on this particular website. He has a bunch of sprites for sprite animation, and my YouTube channel does have sprite animation videos if you want to create your character for this side-scrolling animation. And then we have the tile sets, and I'm using the graveyard tile set and a bunch of other user interface items. He also has a lot of stuff that you can purchase that has more features than what you get in the free ones, so make sure to check that out. Okay, so let's see how this was built before we actually start trying to build it. So the first thing is, I'll go ahead and turn this off so we can simplify what we're seeing, is we have our stage size. And I use YouTube video dimensions in all of my animation projects in case I want to export them to video. So this one is 1280 by 720, one step below the first high definition dimension. So then with the background, what you want to do is you want to make sure it's at least the width of the stage. Actually, you can't do parallax scrolling unless it's more than the width of the stage, so I shouldn't say at least. But you want it to be a little bit bigger or wider than the stage so that it has room to move from left to right. It doesn't need a lot because the very background is going to move pretty slow because it's far away from the viewer's face. So in this instance, I also like to give it some wiggle room on the top and the bottom in case the character needs to jump or needs to drop down so that I can move it up and down as needed. Then we have the middle ground. Now you don't have to have the middle ground. Oops, I forgot to turn the background. So this is the middle ground. So you don't have to have a middle ground, but by having more layers, I only have 3, but just by having 3, it's going to show that parallax effect much more. You can have 2, you can have 5, you can have 10. Just make sure that the closer it is to the foreground, the faster it is, and the further away it gets from that, it's going to go slower. And they should go in percentages. So let's say the running ground is 100% speed, then make sure the next layer is like 80%, and then 67%, and then 53%, and then maybe 30%, and then maybe 10%. So I know that's kind of a lot of numbers thrown out there, but you just want to make sure that they're all, as they move further back, they're going much slower than the one previously. Okay, so the middle ground size, we're going to do this by length of the graphic. So it's going to move really slow, the background, because it only has this much wiggle room to move left to right. Then we have this middle ground with trees, and as you can see, it's about twice the length of the stage. So as that moves from left to right and it lines the right edge up with the right edge of the stage, this is going to go much faster because it has more in which to move. Then we have our final one, which is the running ground, and the running ground is the longest one of all. So it goes all the way out here, and if we scroll left to right, I'll show you how long it gets. So it's about 3, maybe 3.5 sizes, or 3.5 the length of the stage. So you can make that as long or as short as you want to. It's totally up to you. All right, so what we did with this, if we want to see the movement of it, is on the first frame, you want everything on the left side of the, or the left edge of every graphic to line up with the left side of the stage. So as you can see on frame 1, they're all kind of starting from the same left point. Then as it moves down the keyframe and we move it over, we can see that the running ground is moving much faster because it's already way further out than the middle ground and then in the background. So just because the nature of the objects, the length that they are, they're automatically going to move faster or slower because of their length. Okay, so the first frame, the left edge of each graphic lined up with the left side of the stage. And by the last frame, and this makes it so that all the motion tweens can end at the same time. So I told you this is going to be a more simplified version of this background. So it's not as sophisticated, but this is much easier for people to understand the first time they're doing this. So for the last keyframe, the very right edge of all the graphics matches up with the right edge of the stage. So this is why we had to do different lengths so that they could each move faster or slower. So going back here, that's the basic technique. All you have to do for each layer is convert them to a movie clip, add a motion tween, and then move them down. So let's see how we do that. I'll go ahead and create a new document. Again, I created 1280 by 720 for a YouTube dimension, and I'm choosing ActionScript 3.0. Now, when you do this, you can import your graphics by going to File, Import to Stage or Library, or you can get into your graveyard assets and just pop them in there. Once I do that, it's really important that you name your layers and keep them as organized as possible. And I'm going to zoom out so I have more space for myself. And this is quite a bit bigger, and it doesn't really let me see all the graveyard, which I really liked of this graphic. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Again, I want to give myself some top and bottom wiggle room and definitely some right and left wiggle room. So we'll probably do about there, and I want to keep the moon. That looks pretty good. All right. So what I need to do with this is this graphic, this background graphic, should be converted to a movie clip. So we'll do convert to symbol, call this MC background. That makes it able to be motion tweened, and we're going to see that in the next project. I have a mid-build one so that you can see how to do all the motion tweens. So he also gives you all these different objects in ping files. Be careful not to import the PSD or the vector files that he gave you. We just want to put the objects in here for right now. And you can again just drag those and see I already made a mistake. Let me undo. Whoa. Okay, so let me highlight all of those and shift click the background and do edit, cut, because you want to make sure the background is on its own layer by itself. So this one I will call it extras, and then do edit, paste in place. So these extras are the ones that you're going to build everything from, so you can just spread them out. You don't want to take these and use them in your actual project, because what if you want to use more than one bush or more than one box or more than one skull? So what I do when I drag these up here is I hold the Alt or the Option and I drag it up, and as you do that, it creates a duplicated copy so that you can keep the original assets there. So then you're going to want to pull in all of your tiles and bones, and once you do that, it looks kind of really stacked. And if I click and select and pull these out, you can see that these are each kind of puzzle pieces that you have to put together down here and kind of line up. And you can see on GameArt2D.com how these all kind of work together, but they're all the exact same size so that they can line up and you can build your own world, your own unique game. Even if you use the same tile set I had, you can build your own unique running ground. So I don't really have a lot of time in this tutorial video to show you me actually building my running ground, but basically when we come in here, I will turn on that running ground. As you can see, we have all of our different objects that I've already created, and all we did for this, and this probably isn't going to line up very well, but I just wanted to show you how it would work. So for this one, I'm going to look through all my pieces that I built together, and I'm going to grab that and do Alt drag and try to line it up. And I don't know why that one is so darn big. It is big. I don't like it. It's this one. All right, so Alt drag and bring that in there. And you might need to zoom in and really try to line it up. And if it doesn't work, use the arrow keys to nudge things. So that one's not quite lining up. But okay, so you get the idea. I'm not going to do it perfectly right now because we don't have time for that. And that one doesn't look like it lines up perfectly, so I'm going to go ahead and hit delete and go back and look for my other tile set. So it's probably going to be this one. So I'll alt drag that one and pull it up here. All right, so that gives me a good curve in which it can start moving up. And then I want to grab these two and alt drag up here. Okay, so this is not quite going to line up because for some reason I think those tiles have been stretched out and transformed. So just know that yours probably won't do that. It'll probably look right. But okay, so that is my running ground. Now what we need to do is we need to make sure everything's on the right layer. So if I turn off the extras layer, you can see all the ones I just built are on that extras layer. So what I can do is highlight any of those objects. Even if they were on the right layer, you can highlight and do edit, cut, and then go to the right layer, click on the frame of the right layer and do edit, paste in place. That'll put them in the exact same spot, but now all the running ground items are on the running ground layer and all of the extras are on the extra layer. So I'll lock and hide the extra layer, and we've already done the background. We've created it as a movie clip. So now what we need to do for the running ground is we need to make this a movie clip. So in order to do this, we're gonna highlight and make sure you click highlight everything. So just drag a marquee around every single object and then go to modify, convert to symbol, and call this MC running ground or whatever you want to call it. So I already have MC running ground when I first built this, so I'll go ahead and just call this 2 because it won't let me have 2 with the same name. So click OK, and now that movie clip is able to be animated. So let's go ahead and do that with the middle ground trees. We'll hide that for a second, make sure everything else is locked, marquee select everything in that middle ground, modify, convert to symbol, MC middle ground, and I'll put 2 again because this will be my second version of this. All right, so last but not least, we need to actually animate these. So we can turn off those extras and we're gonna do one at a time here. So with the background, we will unlock it, select it, go to insert motion tween, and on the first frame, we want it to be left edge flush with the stage. And at the very last frame, we want to have the right edge flush with the stage. So if we zoom in on this one, we can make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Let's move out a little bit more. Okay. So by this point, I want to move it over to the left. Now make sure you don't go up and down. So if you hold shift, it'll prevent you from moving up and down. And then you can line up the right edge with the right side of the stage. So there is my basic motion for the background. So let's do it with each one of these. So I'll click the middle ground. I'll unlock it first. Click that middle ground, insert motion tween. And by this point in time, again, I'm going to hold shift as I move it to the left. And I'm going to have it stick out a little bit from the right edge of the stage just so we don't get any weird gaps happening. Okay, last but not least, we will change the running ground. So frame 1, click that object, well, unlock it again, click that object, insert, all right, insert, motion tween. All right, so frame 1, it has the left edge flush with the left edge of the stage, and then by the end, I want to hold shift and move this all the way down so that it's pretty much flush with the right edge with a little bit of hang off there just in case. All right, so that's pretty much the entire technique. Let's do Command Return or Control Enter to see it, and you'll see it's absolutely crazy fast. That's because we only had 24 frames. This is 24 frames per second, so our animation is 1 second long. To alleviate this, we can make this longer by clicking on one of the motion tweens, hold shift, and then click, click, and click back again on that first motion tween, so it's going to highlight all 3 tweens. Now you can drag this out to whatever frame makes sense to you. So if I go to 160, I can try it again and see if it's too fast. If it's still too fast, do the same thing and stretch it out until I get a good pace. But now I have that parallax scrolling, side scrolling animation with that great depth effect through the parallax that we have created with basic graphics and the length of those graphics.